Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Madera County Groundwater Sustainability Agency for the Madera, Chowchilla, and Delta Mendota Subbasins Committee meeting. It is July 1st, 1:30 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the flag salute. First item on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for comments on items not on the agenda. This is also a place to suggest topics for future meetings. Comments can be 5 minutes or less. Do we have any public comment? Do we have any online? None online. Okay, I'll close public comment. Move on to the first item, which is an action item, approval of the Madera County Groundwater Sustainability Agency Committee meeting minutes from June 3rd.
Move to approve.
And I'll second that. Do we have any public comment on this item? And we'll call for the vote.
Director McCauley,
Yes.
Director Gonzalez,
Yes.
vote passes 2-0.
Thank you. Next item is an informational item, measurement method and or groundwater platform presentations, and I'll hand it over to Stephanie.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair of the Board of Directors. Happy to have this item in front of you today and ready to share my screen. Okay, the item in front of you today is an informational item, meaning no action is needed at this time. We will be looking at measurement methods and groundwater platform presentations from respondents to our RFP. The measurement methods RFP went for discussion to the GSA committee in April and May. We added a groundwater accounting option to the RFP at the May meeting. It then went to the board of directors. We did an e-blast of the RFP and phone calls to likely respondents, as well as our 800 plus person mailing list. There was an article in Water Rights describing what we were looking for as well that resulted in a few inquiries. And we received 7 proposals. We're going to hear presentations from those vendors today. Those presentations are 5 to 7 minutes. We are going to cut people off at 7 minutes. If we get sort of an alarm sound to play, we'll do that. Otherwise, I will be making the noise myself awkwardly. We will do some updates in August and September with the committee so that we will keep you informed about this. We're going to talk a little bit about how to handle questions with this. You'll note that we have everybody under 1 item. So there is an opportunity for public comment at the end of the item. However, there isn't a back and forth with the respondents at this time. We are gathering questions, however, and we have a box, or you can email them to our WNR@Madera County email, and we will take your questions there through Thursday at noon. And the idea with getting questions in sort of an organized format is to make sure that we're doing the process without a bias and that everybody who is responding to the RFP is getting the same questions at the same time. So we welcome questions from people in the audience, either online or here physically, but we're going to take those questions and we'll get them answered for you in writing after the presentation. If you'd like to just bookmark this, the MaderaCountyWater.com measurement page will be where we post responses, hopefully around 7:15. That's the date, not the time. So looking ahead, we'll take those questions today through Thursday. We'll post the responses on July 15th. And then we're also doing a grower input questionnaire that will hopefully go out tomorrow. The idea there is to ask growers what their preferred satellite measurement method is, whether they support having more than 1 satellite measurement measurement method option and which groundwater accounting platform they prefer. And the idea is really to provide all of the resources that growers need to evaluate, including the proposals or responses to the RFP, the responses to the questions, and the video that we're making today. Okay, so we are ready to begin the presentations. So again, this is 5 to 7 minutes. I will awkwardly make a noise or approach you as we get to the 7 minutes, and we're going to have a timer on screen that will count down from 7 minutes. So the first presentation is from Hydrosat.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for having me today. My name is Brett Blom. I manage the customer teams at Hydrosat. I've been with the company about 3 years now. Been in the remote sensing space for almost 10. It's crazy to even say out loud now. On top of that, I actually live in Modesto. My family farms almonds up there. My whole life, so a very long time. So Hydrosat, so what do? We are here to, really help Earth save water and resources. We're a remote sensing and data analytics company. And a unique thing about us is we actually have our own satellite. Right now, you guys are seeing a Transporter 11 rocket, SpaceX. We launched on this last year, our first satellite in orbit. We actually launched our second one about a week ago, Air Force Base. So 2 satellites on orbit, really kind of a unique thing that we do. You might be asking yourself, why would you do that? Why does that matter? Ag, right? And the shorter answer is, we exist as a company and we started this whole thing because in the publicly available satellite data, we essentially get very high frequency data with low resolution, or the inverse of that, right? So as you can see kind of on the chart here, we are aiming to provide high resolution data very frequently. Right, in the ag space and in several applications, it's very helpful to actually get good data more than what's available now. And we think with launching our own satellites, we can. Obviously, in the ag space, lots of decisions are made, especially here in California in the middle of the growing season. If we can provide, customers good data consistently, a lot of good things happen from there. So how we actually do this and how this pertains to today is, we take the satellite data, we apply crop models, analytics, and we actually have a grower-facing application called IRWatch. Madera County growers are familiar with this. We've been working with you guys for a long time now. But yeah, we take our data and the publicly available satellite data and transform that into actionable insights and information that you guys can use. At this point, we're in about 60 countries globally, covering over 120 crops. My team really focused on this. I have people all over the world. And yeah, we are solving a ton of problems in a ton of different places, including right here in California. Yeah, really interesting to see this growth. I think when we started, acquired IRWatch about 2 years ago, we were roughly 20 employees. We're up to 65 now. Excited about that. It relates to our project. So, we have an organizational chart of dedicated staff members to work with you guys. Rula, I think a lot of people have met her, a really intelligent, thoughtful person. I think a lot of people can attest to that have worked with her. And then specifically, several PhDs, lots of software engineers. And then I'll just highlight Wim Bastianson. I think people have met him as well. Lots of accolades and, details. I won't go into all of them, but essentially he came up with the Siebel model. And I think interesting just on this slide, he has over 26,000 citations. Where he finds the time and energy, I'm not sure, but very credible and been doing this for a very long time. And maybe just a quick history on how we worked with Madera. Over the past 5 years, we provided our measurement services, calculation of evapotranspiration from applied water, so ETAW. And really, we've tailored this concept specifically. So thank you for all the summaries, comments, suggestions over the years. Really, at this point, I think we've kind of nailed it, and it's due to your, made adjustments. So yeah, been doing this for a while with you guys, and again, really appreciate all the feedback. Here's an example of our application. This is a map of one of the subbasins where we can actually show ETAW, real time. So every day we take these measurements, they're in the portal. I know a lot of people have had access to them, but we've developed this specifically for Madera County, and this is what it looks like. And just in terms of what are we actually delivering, so I can read all these. I think pretty self-explanatory as well. But annual updates of the land use raster files, daily ET and ETAW, monthly ET and ETAW raster, daily precipitation data provided at field level, monthly precipitation maps at 10-meter spatial resolution, full implementation of the tailored version. Blurred out the words here and some of the specific growers, but here's again another example of how this looks in our application. These are tables, they're downloadable down to the parcel level. And I'm sure you guys have seen this already as well. I just want to highlight a couple things before I wrap here. One is, I think it's really, and a lot of people have told us this is, from a daily collection perspective, this is really helpful in how we do this. So, we provide a monthly summary, but we actually collect ET and precipitation daily. And that really increases accuracy as there's minimal interpolation, right? We're collecting this every day, summarizing that with not a lot of guesswork involved. That really makes a difference as you're thinking about accuracy. And also, to me, this, rings really true, coming from a farming family, is every grower in Madera County actually has access to our portal to help them farm better. So every day we're helping customers, adjust irrigations, look at crop yields, find nutrient deficiencies. Every grower in Madera County has access to this at no additional. So, really would be very, I think, advantageous to take. Here's an example of what that looks like. We provide soil moisture, NDVI, ET, all sorts of really interesting things that, yeah, as a grower, in the peak of summer, as it is now, you can really make a lot of changes and help the farm. Last slide, just from a cost perspective, we offer this at 83 cents per acre at the acres that we're given. We also offer discounts for 2. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Brett.
All right, thank you.
Thank you also for having us here today. We appreciate the opportunity at Land IQ to present the work that we do, also for the Madera County GSA. A little background on Land IQ. We have been in existence for going on 18 years now, and we developed our company with the main purpose of merging agronomic scientists, of which we have about 15 or 16 ag scientists, crop scientists, soil scientists, irrigation specialists, with spatial scientists. And we did that on purpose so that we could merge the two technologies, basically in sciences of understanding what's going on the ground from an ag perspective, and also looking at things from the sky from a spatial perspective. Recently have developed a development group as well that puts out all of our online resources. In addition to those team members, we have an advisory, independent ET reviewers and advisory group, which are listed here. Blake Sandin and Alan Fulton are retired extension agents that look at our results every month. And we have a larger advisory group that's listed here from known specialists in ET throughout the state and nation to look at the work that we do. The main point in why we do the work that we do, and we don't use a public or a model that has been published at this point, like a metric or C-ball or something like that. We evaluated those models and looked at those over time and decided to go a route that we're very confident in and what we kind of hang our hat on at Land IQ, and that's ground truthing. So in the Central Valley, we purposefully install eddy covariance and surface renewal stations for the purpose of measuring actual ET on a sub-daily basis. And we do that for the purposes of calibrating and validating the models the remotely sensed models that are there. I say this is no different than a grower calibrating their spray rig. They care about things like PSI, ground speed, nozzle size, et cetera, to calibrate your spray rig so that you don't apply too much chemical or too little chemical. We do the same thing with these stations, and that includes measuring things like min-max temperature, net radiation, soil moisture. So we calibrate the remotely sensed models so they're more accurate, that relate to actual conditions. Throughout this is a footprint of our active areas that we work and provide ET and daily precip, and I'll get to that in a minute, for about 40 different GSAs and irrigation districts in the South Valley. That's the blue area that we cover and elsewhere on the coast. And then the red dots are those stations or those ground truthing stations. Again, we do that on purpose for the purpose of measuring the actual conditions on the ground to better represent what the models predict. We have a number of deliverables. Deliverable 1 is field by field ET, and I think all of you are familiar with that, so I won't go into that too much, but that's delivered on a monthly basis. But I'll also introduce a daily product that we now provide to growers to look at their ET on a daily basis. That deliverable 1 is important to have accuracy. So again, we use a portion of those ground truthing stations. We hold back some of those stations every month. And we've been doing that for over 3 years for the purpose of independently validating the results of our models. We also cooperate with a number of growers, and we receive meter data from up to over 170 blocks of almonds, pistachios, citrus, and other crops to compare applied versus consumed water. Deliverable 2 is field by field crop type. We're the contractor that does crop mapping for the state of California. We do that on a continuous basis. The state of California is slower in getting it out there that's DWR for use. So we expedite our crop mapping for anyone that we do ET work for. Deliverable 3 is field by field precipitation, and we have precipitation gauges on all those stations that you saw prior to this, and those are used to create a more accurate estimate on a field by field basis of precipitation. Deliverable 4 is permanent crop age. There's definitely a correlation between a tree crop age and the water that's consumed based on canopy size, and you can see that in this relationship that I'm showing here. Deliverable 5 is a new product that we've developed. We listened to growers and they said, we really like your 30-day number. We like its accuracy. It seems to make sense for us, but we can't make management decisions based on that. So we want to be able to look at things daily. So over the last 2 years, we've been reinvested back into the work that we do and are producing now a daily tool. So for every grower that wants to use it, can look at their fields, every field on a daily basis. I won't go into the details of the tool itself, but I'll give you a few examples visually here. There's a login page, you add your crop type, et cetera, the planting date, harvest date, irrigation method, et cetera. It produces ET. It also looks backwards in time over the last 3 years that we've been doing work for Madera County and taking those ET ranges for the crops that we map as well. And so we know where it has been, it accumulates consumption, and then it also forecasts where you're going to end up. And there's a threshold, that's that line at the top, and that you add in your threshold. That could be an allotment or an allocation. And this allows you to manage towards and hopefully not exceed that allocation over time. There's also on that daily product a manager or GSA level portal in which the GSA or the manager can see everybody's field so they can work with growers individually. Level 6 is really what I find as a farm kid from Butte County, really important, and that's to be able to work with individual growers. So we are unlimited in how much work or information we will provide to growers and work with them. We are asked to say how we deliver the results. Currently, we work with all the platforms that are being presented here and provide information for them to insert in their platforms. And this is a summary of our costs, which is the fourth request of this presentation, and I'll field questions later. Thank you.
All right, thank you to the board and staff for having me today. I'm John Burns with Environmental Science Associates, ESA. I'm part of a team here to talk about the open source groundwater accounting platform. I want to spend a little bit of my 7 minutes just giving some overview and background. The groundwater accounting platform is scalable, configurable, and ready to use. I show a map here of the basins we've had the opportunity to work in California, with full deployments in several nearby GSAs in the Turlock and Merced subbasins, and then down in Kern with Rosedale, Rio Bravo. And we've also had the opportunity to deploy a number of demos or pilots who we've worked with to bring in actual configured evapotranspiration and meter data. Another aspect I'd like to highlight is that we've partnered outside of California, test the scalability and configurability of this with instances in Nebraska and Kansas. So our platform, you're going to hear about 5 of them today, and I wanted to focus on some differentiators. As I say, this is the open source groundwater accounting platform, and what that means is that the underlying technology that we've created is not proprietary. It's available to others to use and build upon. And this has allowed us to get some state and federal grant funding to invest in the scalability, user experience, and support tools that are available in the platform. We've worked with our NGO partners at the California Water Data Consortium and Environmental Defense Fund to build up an active user community within the platform. This user community provides capacity building for GSA staff and managers, the opportunity to cost share when adding new functionality to the platform, and to help shape the platform roadmap in a collaborative environment. The user community meets quarterly, and it's kind of a great opportunity for us to shape how we build the platform and for users to share their experiences. And then lastly, I'm on the consultant team with our NGO partners, but my firm does not own the underlying technology. It's in the public domain. So I'm here to represent an opportunity to configure and use and host the platform on your behalf, but you would not be locked in. You have the opportunity for other consultants to take this technology and apply it, should the GSA wish to move in that direction. Here, I'm just going to show the user interface for the platform from a grower's perspective. This is the homepage where we've put a lot of listening closely to our growers and our landowners to build a streamlined user experience. We want the growers within 2 clicks to be able to find the information they need or to report the data that they're being required to report. This homepage shows a grower who has water accounts or farm units in 2 different GSAs that can be accessed from a common landing. With 300 GSAs in the state of California, we know it's a lot of policies and a lot of logins to keep track of. So we're trying to provide, as we grow our user community, a one-stop shop for growers across GSAs. And here's an example of the landowner dashboard where a grower who logs in would be able to see their water supply and usage. I want to talk a little bit about the RFP process here. Madera County provided some language that there's an existing DMS and not looking to replace the existing DMS. But there is a desire to understand how online platforms work. So what the RFP suggests to me is this: a data flow from the measurement provider, who you've heard your presentations from, feeding into Madera DMS and feeding into an online grower portal. Now, there's a bit of a wrinkle here is our platform and the others you're going to hear about today have DMS functionality. And so we need to consider how your existing DMS would relate to the DMS functionality that is really required to offer an accounting solution. So as opposed to, kind of this straight line data flow, what we're suggesting is there's some ambiguity to tease out here. And there's some major unknowns in this ambiguity. How will the integration with Madeira DMS and accounting platform work? And what are any feature gaps between your policies and the platforms that are on offer? And you're not going to be able to tease that out in a 7-minute presentation. But what I wanted to emphasize is that the unknown costs are probably greater. I'm confident that the unknown costs are greater than the monthly subscription fees that you're going to see from me and the other vendors today. And so I wanted to make a suggestion and a request here, which would be great to see some specific requirements for an online portal. What functionality are you seeking? What is already accounted for in the Madeira DMS. And if we could get access to some data from the Madeira DMS, myself, my team, and the other vendors would be able to provide you with higher confidence total lifecycle costs for the platform rather than the monthly subscription fee. I think what you'll see is a lot of the proposals have this other work to be defined, time and materials based on our rate sheets. So my ask would be to give us a chance to provide a detailed design and maybe set up a demonstration portal so we can get into the details of the data integration requirements and the additional required functionality and do kind of a compare and contrast sort of test drive before you buy. And so with that, I will cede my remaining minute and a half. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victor Lopez. I am the project manager and software developer for Four Creeks. And today I'm going to be presenting to you our software Basin Safe. So current users, we have 6 GSAs and 7 irrigation districts onboarded onto our system. We launched Basin Safe back in 2020. So we have about 5.5 years of experience implementing GSA policy and assisting day-to-day needs. Firm overview, who is Four Creeks? We are a 100% employee-owned, multidisciplinary architecture, engineering, and construction firm. We have over 200 professionals across our build and design divisions. Our roots are in the Central Valley, so we have a pretty strong understanding of GSA needs, agricultural and community needs as well. On the project team, we have David DeGroot, principal engineer, one of the founders of Four Creeks and the Tule River Water Master. David truly is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the water world. Don Tucker, our department manager. He provides consulting services for various agencies and groups throughout the Tule subbasin. Myself, I grew up in Los Banos, graduated from Fresno State alongside one of our other developers, Mitchell. Caleb and Jake, the other 2 developers, graduated down south from Biola. Our entire team is based out of the Visalia office. We do have a GIS team who also supports our software team with various maps, processing ET, and whatever data analyses that our clients may need. So we are more than just software. We do provide supporting services as well. I was hoping I could do a live demonstration. I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to also present this to you. And I am going to be moving pretty quickly. So rest assured at the end of my presentation, I want to leave you all a login to one of our demo accounts. That way you can test drive this thing yourself. Personally, I like to do a test drive before I buy things, so I wanted to present that same opportunity to you. On the overview, this is your landing page for a grower. On the left side, you have account information. On the right side, you have accounts total gross and irrigated acreage. Below that, you have summaries of all of the water that is associated to the account. Below that, you have a kind of a master list of all water transactions that have occurred. So you can export this to Excel. You can get some really fine-grained data, add filters, whatever you need. Scrolling back up to our admin notes tab, this is where administrative staff can upload documents and files. They can log grower correspondence. Sometimes you can't resolve an issue over the phone in a single phone call. You can flag that as unresolved. When you revisit, you can pick up right where you left off. On our water accounts tab, there are two versions of this. Unfortunately, I can't go into all the details. There's just too many tools here. But on the left side, we have our primary allocations tab. This is a water accounting system for the entire account. And then on the right side, we have our parcel specific allocations tab. Now, these are two different GSA implementations. Ideally, you would pick one or the other. But if you're brave, you can do both. We do have a GSA that does that. On our billing account tab, growers can log in. They can see all of their invoices. They can see every charge, adjustment, payment, penalty. So there's lots of tools here for both the grower and the administrative staff. On our parcels and fields tab, not loading, but this is a list of all APNs associated to the account, whether they are owned or leased. There's lots of flags here, so growers and admins can see what's going on at a glance. If you expand these parcels, you can see what fields and what wells are also associated to these parcels. On our wells and meters tabs, fortunately, this is not loading. I'm going to swap back to the PowerPoint. Our wells and meters tabs was designed after the State Water Resource Control Board's GEARS program. So any question that you're going to find on their platform, you're also going to find on ours. The idea there is you can submit your data through Basin Safe. We'll export it for you, import it into the GEARS program. Hopefully that'll save you guys some headache. Once you get those wells registered, you can also add in a meter and add meter readings, as well as service areas. On our ET tab, this is where you're going to see a breakdown of all of your APNs and your fields. So with the associated ET, you're going to see it's going to be broken out by month. Below this, you're going to find some graphs so you can get some historical insights from year to year. On our map tab, if you click a parcel, it's going to give you some specific insights on that parcel. There's also toggleable filters so you can see different layers for irrigated or non-irrigated parcels. There is a well section that's skipped over here, but it's going to have color-coded wells for if you have irrigated wells, domestic wells, dairy supply wells, and so on. On our well service area tab, this is where a grower can log into the portal and they can designate specific fields that are serviced by each well that is associated to the account. So lots of tools in Basin Safe. Full transparency, what does Basin Safe cost? Starting out, phase one, this is where we meet with the GSA and see what your needs are. We're going to give you out-of-the-box tools. We're going to remove or add filters or permissions as needed to see what tools you need. And then phase two, core application development and configuration. This is a one-time fee of $57,500. This is just to get you the license of Basin Safe and then get your servers configured. After that, we move on to onboarding. We see what data is available that the GSA has and then what data formats. And then we move on to user account setup and verification. This is where we're going to set up all the grower accounts. We're going to assign any associated APNs, wells, or other data that's relevant. That's a TNM task as well, estimated $13,000. And then testing and staff training, $10,000 TNM. This is where we train the staff so that they can use the tools to manage day-to-day operations. And then we launch for member access. And again, TNM 8,500 estimate. This is where we start sending out mailers to the growers. You guys start logging in, and then we get you whatever documents you need to get up to speed. So total estimated cost to get you onboarded, $96,500. And then proposed ongoing support, $45,000 a year with on-call support and customization as needed. So as promised, here is our Basin Safe login. I strongly encourage you guys to either take a picture if you're in person or maybe take a screenshot and you guys can test this out later. So Thank you, everyone, for your time. Look forward to working soon.
Thank you.
Wondering if this is like Congress where I get to, John yields back his time to somebody else. Okay. Wait, just kidding.
No, it's not.
Good afternoon, staff and members of the public. Lots of familiar faces in the audience today. It's good to see you all. John Davids with Davids Engineering. I'm also joined today by Jeff Davids, who's wearing two hats today, both Davids Engineering and H2O Tech. It's our distinct pleasure to be with you this afternoon to discuss the portal that we have developed. The cover email from staff notifying us of today's opportunity asked that we generally cover our team, our approach, the product, and finally the cost. Before jumping into our team and then handing it back to Jeff to cover the product, our approach, and the cost, I want to take just a minute to cover and describe our experience in the Madera Subbasin and Chowchilla for that matter. Davids Engineering's led in subsequent development and subsequent revision of the Madera joint GSP. Development and subsequent revision of the Chowchilla GSP that was recently passed back to the jurisdiction of the Department of Water Resources. We've written numerous grant applications, yielding millions of dollars in local investment in this community. We're working on several recharge projects, both for Madera County and local landowners. And then, of course, we've developed annual reports and the first plan amendment periodic evaluation for the Madera joint GSP. I think critical for today's discussion is also the fact that DE currently supports and assists the Madera County GSA staff in implementation of the existing groundwater allocation platform. So we feel extremely fortunate to have worked for both Madera County GSAs and the GSAs in the Chowchilla Subbasin for a number of years now. The insights and experiences that we've gained, the good work that's been done, lots of work yet to do, and importantly, the relationships that we've built in the basin with many of you in the audience included. All right, let's shift gears quickly to our team. Our team is comprised of Davids Engineering and H2O Tech, both whom have decades of experience in helping to manage California's water resources. We have three offices across California, Chico in the North State, Davis, and then also our newest office in Oakdale, California. Davids Engineering will serve as the prime and be responsible for the majority of the spatial hydrology staffing resources necessary to manage, operate, and maintain the H2O flow platform on a daily basis, while H2O Tech will be responsible for software configuration and any necessary development on the backside. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jeff.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, Madam Chair. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity here. John said he was going to give me 5 minutes, and it looks like, well, I don't want to burn any of it criticizing that. So moving on here. Let's see, let's get to this slide. So there's really three things I wanted to highlight about kind of our team and approach. And to start with, just have a lot of experience in this space. In fact, I think some of the gray hairs that you see on my face are from the Madera County allocation starting from 2021 and kind of working up the data model to support the resolutions that you all passed to deal with the issues with groundwater sustainability. So we're really passionate about our experience generally with water counting. We've worked with the UN internationally, 30 years plus on the DE side, 20 years on H2O Tech side on water counting. And we don't just know the hydrology, but we really love and appreciate the data. And so we kind of bring that combination together to the work that we do. In terms of insights, again, I've mentioned that we have a deep experience with the Madera County allocation specifically, understand the rules of the allocation, and then the relationships with the growers and the people on the landscape here. We really appreciate this place and want to see groundwater managed sustainably for the community here. And finally, independence is something I wanted to highlight. We are an independent group in terms of the measurement data that we ingest and work with. And we're actually working with Hydrosat and Land IQ that you've already heard from today in terms of using those data to manage the allocation. And so I think that's an important point. At the risk of maybe the second demo bug, I'm going to give it a shot here to actually just do a quick live demo of the portal. And I don't, we have some slides as a backup. But one more shot. It appears like this computer's lost connection to the
And I just want to add, none of these demo bugs are any of the fault of the respondents.
no,
We
it's
are
my fault,
having, no,
100%.
it is not your fault. I think we're having some internet connectivity issues. We got an email internally about it. So rely on your backup slides.
Let's go back to
please.
the slides.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. Okay, so not live demonstration, but screenshots of the live demonstration in a couple minutes. So of course, a login page for both the county and the growers, obviously following standard best practice security protocols. Once you're in, really start with a rich kind of map interface. We think it's really important that these data are spatial in terms of the way people interact with them. This is a view that the county would have. And again, it is working, it's live, but these are just the screenshots. If you click on any given parcel, basically what you're presented with would be the evapotranspiration, which is the blue line over time. In this case, this is for 2024. And then you can see the low and the high shown in gray arrows, basically that give you context in terms of what you might expect, especially if you're in the middle of the year and you're kind of wondering where you might land relative to the total allocation, which is the red line that you can't exceed without penalty. Those historical context would be very useful. And of course, some people like tables instead, so we provide that in tabular form as well. Moving down to a specific view of the allocation, what this presents is a summary by farm unit zone. And you can click on or hover on any farm unit zone, see the summary of where you're at, and of course, see spatially where that's at, look around at different farm unit zones. Again, a very quick snapshot by farm unit zone for the county to see where they're at. And of course, growers, if they log in, it's just going to show them the parcels that they're associated with in the different farm unit zones that they farm in. I will note all the data that we're showing here in this demonstration are really just demo data. So we just, there's no real data in here. This is all just kind of made up numbers. And the OpenET data was used on the front, which is in the public domain. So moving on, let's see, of course, different accounts. And I am going to stop with the fact that the GSAs can manage all the base level data under this management tab. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
I should know. Hopefully not. Learning from. Okay, hello everyone. I'm Robert Sema with MLJ Environmental, and our platform is Watermark. Just a little bit about the company first. We've been around for about 25 years. We work solely in water. A lot of the work that we do currently is on the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program side, so water quality. Something to note there is a lot of the people in Madera probably use one of our platforms for their member portals and reporting on their irrigation and nitrogen management plans, farm evaluations, things like that. So we've been building software in this space for the past 10 years before we ventured into the safety side. Going into our team, I would be the project manager. What's important to note here is that we have a couple different data specialists that are part of our teams. We really believe that it's important to understand the data that's going into the platform so that we can trust the reports and the information that's coming out. We also have an outreach specialist. Jennifer Sanchez would be filling that role, and she actually lives in Fresno. She communicates with a lot of our growers on the IRLP side, helps walk people through creating accounts. So it's more than just the platform itself. You're investing in the people of the company too. And I think that's an important piece of this. Okay, what are those people going to be doing? So our approach is broken down into 6 different tasks. And And we try to make things pretty simple. I think starting with sitting down with the county and Madera and understanding what does success look like to you? You know, are there a certain amount of people you're trying to get on board the platform? There's a certain amount of acreage that we're trying to ingest in the platform. Really understanding where we are going so that we're all on the same page. Walking through some of the technical pieces, we're going to look at all the GIS information. We're going to ingest that in the system. We're going to set the database up to understand and handle all the information you're trying to collect. Some of the out-of-box solutions, we want to tailor that down to specifically what you're trying to accomplish. As far as the ET data goes, we're an agnostic platform, meaning we can work with any of the providers in the room. We'll take that in, work with that individual that you've chosen for the ET source and make sure that that's very easily visible and usable in the system itself. And at the end, we do go through a client training, make sure everyone can use the system, they understand it from the administrative side, how it works and why it does what it does. Going to the presentation of the platform itself a little bit, very easy to use login screens. Everything should be simple to use, very easy to click through. It's actually designed to be used in low bandwidth areas. Knowing that people live in rural areas is important so that if you have a smaller internet connection, it can handle that. It shouldn't have any hiccups or have problems running in certain places. After you log in, you're dropped onto a very user-friendly dashboard. Breaking this down real quick, you have some high-level metrics up at the top, goes into some of your water accounting features in the middle, and then every page has a very easy-to-use navigation bar on the right-hand side. So through this, I'm going to concentrate on the water use piece, and this is where we can talk about aggregating ET data and how we handle that. Takes you to a page that looks like this. So you have drop-down toggles. I'm going to break this down. You can look at your data for your ET across multiple parcels, all of your parcels at one time, or sum them up by a water account, which would be the highest level that you can kind of roll this up to. You can select different data sources, and you can also start moving through this. Compare your evapotranspiration information to if you want to collect pumping inputs from your individuals too. You can set those against each other. You can also look at the reported crop on a per parcel level. You can also select from different crops. If you see something that looks amiss or you need to work with your ET provider and kind of correct some of that, you can do that from this space as well. Going into the water usage piece, up at the top, we're going to look in the groundwater pumping limits. So these are the policy pieces that are put in place by the GSA itself. If your native sustainable yield, ramp down allocations, seepage credits, intentional recharge, and carrier credits. This would be your consumptive use. So this is actually what you're pumping out and what you're using. It's broken into certain categories, and I'll kind of move through it a little bit quick. And then if you want to collect information from your surface water providers and you want to get those deliveries in there to get the full picture of water accounting, we can ingest that and work with them as well from your irrigation districts and the page as a whole. Through this. Okay, what does this cost? So breaking this down, you'll see our year one cost. What's important to take away here is the difference in price for year one is really taking into account those implementation costs. So the fees and what we assess, what we think it'll take to set this up and get it running, that's where that price is coming from. After that, it's dropping down to just what our SaaS costs are. And we would want to lock into a 3-year contract to try to keep pricing stable and not have anything go up or unsuspected as we move along. What makes us different? You guys have seen a lot of great platforms up here today, so I think it's important to try to set apart what do we do that's different. The grower outreach piece, so helping you guys walk through the messaging, who we are, who is MLJ, what is Watermark, why are we doing this? We do help with that. We are more than just a tech company. We do provide consulting services as well as part of our approach and implementation. The data management aspect, you've been doing data management, like I said, for the past 25 years, specifically in this water industry. We're used to this kind of data. Our professionals, the staff that you're working with are used to working with this kind of data. Industry experience. It's that irrigated lands regulatory side matched with the Sigma. So we are used to working with not only data quantity, but the quality, the water quality and the water quantity. And the long-term vision. So our platform, we want it to be around for a long time. You guys have seen kind of the water allocation piece and how we handle the accounting. We also do have well registration. We're working with the irrigation districts to get the surface water. And then the next logical step for us is at some point, our next rollout will be some sort of water market on a digital scale. So just trying to make sure that we are around. It's not something that's going anywhere. Company's here and it's stable.
Thank you, Robert.
Good. Can go. Yeah, try that one. No. Go to slide. Maybe there was. I can grab it.
We need 1 minute.
Okay, no problem.
And I'll just mention, we do have a recess scheduled when we're done with the presentations after public comment, and there is cake in the room right behind here. It's to celebrate the Chowchilla Subbasin coming out of state board jurisdiction, which is a really big deal. It's the first subbasin to come out of state board jurisdiction. It's leading the way for others. I think Kauai is next, but it's a big deal. It's positive, and we thought it might be nice to have a little cake before resuming. So that is, how is my stalling going?
Everyone's been waiting for the noise.
Yes, and a big thank you to people that I didn't have to do something kind of more embarrassing than normal life.
Thank you for your time. I'm glad you waited for me because I'm the last one. My name is Scott Steinbeck, and I'm the CTO of United Tracking Systems. What you're about to see isn't another accounting platform. It's a purpose-built tool created for Sigma without needing a degree in software. So we have built this platform specifically for the Kauai Subbasin, and we spent a lot of time building out all of the features that are in it for all the needs of the GSA. We've been in this industry for about 40 years doing agricultural work and doing software for about 20. And we built the regulatory system for the irrigated lands. And now we've expanded to 4 GSAs. Our mission was simple: to help landowners strategically respond to Sigma without needing a degree in software. We give you real-time field level insights, monthly ET usage, allocations, meter appeals, credit transferred, and detailed reports. And we don't just show data, we help you act on it. Whether it's declaring fallow field acreage or requesting a meter correction, it's all built in. Our mission was simple: to help landowners strategically respond to Sigma without needing any expertise in what to do. What sets us apart is we don't believe that software is one size fits all. Every GSA operates differently. Your rules, your growers, your challenges, they're all unique, and your dashboard should be too. That's why we work hand in hand with each agency to configure everything: your allocation methods, your penalty structures, carryover rules, even late fees. It's all fully customized to match your guys' needs, and then we make sure that when it rolls out, it works the way that you operate. The water dashboard supports multiple GSAs, which is important in the Madera County because you guys have your 3 separate
and we can actually unify it all under one system. So growers can have one login, but each subbasin has their own rules and allocations and rates, and it's all in one platform. They have to go one place. And so they can see all of this information consolidated and still be able to get to all the information that they need to. Growers don't just need reports, though, they need answers. Our dashboard breaks down usage by APN, by field. It allows them to map their fields and name them, by crop, so they can plan ahead, adjust in season, and avoid surprises. All the data is provided in detail, and they can download it when and whenever they want it. Every part of the system, from the account setup to credit transfers, has been tested and refined with real growers to make it fast, simple, and intuitive. If you need to declare a fallow field or adjust credits from a meter appeal, you don't have to make any emails, you don't have to make any phone calls. You can submit a request, and it will be reviewed by a GSA staff member and approved or denied. We make it easy for growers to enter meter appeals. Growers can submit an appeal for inaccurate ET data and provide their accurate, verified meter readings. And this gets pushed off to a staff member who can then review it and either approve it or deny it. Same thing goes for fallow field declarations. Submitting a fallow field is just as easy. You can quickly choose your field, choose a season that has been fallowed for, and choose even a portion of the field if you would like to declare that that portion is fallowed. And that can be handed off to a GSA staff member through our built-in review system. And once that gets approved or denied, it will be shown in their credit balance. Our platform is just not a water data system, though. It's an accounting platform. And it streamlines your entire operation. Usage to invoicing to payment tracking, it's all integrated into our system. But we also attach to QuickBooks and Sage if need be. Our platforms generated over 15,000 invoices and helped GSA already collect millions of dollars in the last 3 years. I've been a part of it. The grower dashboard simplifies complexity, real-time usage, allocations, credit approvals, and transfers. They can see everything from here. They can see all of their information and also see what their invoicing looks like and pay it. In terms of surface water, we can ingest information or credits from any surface water district. We have a unified format that we can send them, that they can upload that data on a monthly basis. And we're even turnkey to the point where they can manage it themselves. We don't have to be involved. We also support the GSA administrators. You can monitor your year-to-date usage, APN ownership and mapping, monthly volumes, regulated acres, and we can create automated or custom reports to see at the GSA level. Today, United Tracking System is managing over 512,000 regulated acres, nearly 6,000 grower accounts across 4 GSAs. And in fact, most of the GSAs that are using our platform only employ 1 to 2 part-time individuals to manage the entire system. And some of those systems have over 2,000 to 3,000 users that are being manned by 1 person, including billing. Since 2011, United Tracking Systems has been at the forefront of agriculture with over 40 years of experience in ag and tech. Our team is responsive, knowledgeable, and deeply committed to the industry. And beyond our core team, we've established a robust extended developer network ready to scale up, support, and fully take development for you. This is our Developer 2 network, and we also have a Developer 3 network that allows us to scale up at any time to make sure that your needs are met and you're always supported. At the end of the day, you don't want software, you want fewer problems. And that's why we built the water dashboard to be easy for growers, effortless for staff, and dependable for your board. It runs smoothly with just 1 to 2 staff members, has no hidden fees, no hidden costs, and is always trusted by thousands of growers across the state already. You're not just choosing the tool, you're choosing the foundation that will carry your groundwater program for the next decade and beyond. But specifically in California GSAs, our platform is simple, scalable, fully managed, so you can stay focused on what matters. This isn't the starting point. This is your long-term solution.
Madam Chair, the time
it's
is
ready
over by
today.
20 seconds.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, I had to get the last one.
I was letting him finish his sentence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Do you need the shoe?
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Public
ahead.
questions.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for providing a presentation and sharing a little bit about your company and your platforms. At this time, Supervisor McCauley, do you have any questions or comments?
Let's open it up to
Yeah.
the floor.
That's what okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Not all at once.
There we go.
Start.
Good afternoon, supervisors. Thank you, as always. I am speaking today on behalf of Madera Ag Water Association. NOAA is not available. So first of all, thank the board for establishing the committee. We really like that we're having presentations like this. It's better communication with everyone. We appreciate the public process with the vendors and seeing what they are presenting and what they could provide. I would like to highlight the importance of including the groundwater accounting platform in addition to the measurement data. We have to also remember that some growers are currently only using their flow meters. So if we're not allowed access to the measurement data, then we really don't have anything. And we also have to remember that these annual allocations are decreasing year over year, and we're going to start taking big steps downward as of 2026. So as the penalties increase for people, we're going to have to be on top of our accounting and how much water we have, how much water we're projecting to use. The data viewer is great for the growers, and a lot of people are using this, but I think there's a lot of people that still have some questions about what they can use the full utility. MAWA is always available to ask any questions or answer any questions of the vendors. And we just appreciate the time. And just to one up on Jeff David's, Jeff, I had hair before Sigma, so I'll take your gray anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. I will note that we did receive the letter, the comments from Madera Ag Water Association, and those will be submitted for the record.
Thank you, and I do appreciate this process. It's excellent. My question is this. When we started, we were looking for an ETAW provider, and now which is important, and now it's expanded to an accounting platform. And thank you for, and by the way, the presentations were excellent, and I thank all of you, not arguing with that. But I am wondering and worried that this is going to be, the accounting software is going to be used by a limited few, where ETAW measurement is used by all. And I'm worried that our resources, if we spend against this, will get very little usage. And obviously, we got very little turnout today, and I just wonder what the benefit is. So that's my comment. I thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Do we have any comments online?
None online.
Okay, I'll hand it back to Stephanie.
So how long would you like the recess to be, Madam Chair?
Oh, I thought you were gonna wrap it up.
No.
Chair, if I,
Go ahead.
real quick, Stephanie, can you run us through again the process to solicit for comments and questions? For me, I hear your comment, Mark, and, I think it was mentioned at the last meeting, I'm not a farmer. But, I think it is really important we get feedback from the farmers, especially into things like, investments in an accounting platform. So, again, curious to know what our solicitation process is for getting questions from the public as well as feedback around these things?
Sure, happy to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is have an opportunity for people to put questions in a box if they're here in person. And those questions will be given to all of the respondents to respond to. You can also email questions through Thursday at noon to WNR, the Water and Natural Resources email, WNR@maderacounty.com. Then we're doing a questionnaire that should go out tomorrow, and we'll give people a choice of satellite measurement methods, ask their thoughts on paying for more than one, and then ask their thoughts on the accounting platform. An option there is I'm not interested in viewing my data in this fashion with an accounting platform. So there's sort of a way of not choosing a service as well. Those will be due at the end of the month. We will mail them out because typically we get 30 to 40 folks when we do email, but mail, we get a higher response rate. We also want to reach people who may not use email as regularly. So we'll give you an update at the August committee meeting. We're also going to come back with a recommendation in September based on the questionnaires and our own analysis on that. There will be a fairly lengthy contracting process because this contract or contracts are IT contracts, and there is a separate process for getting feedback from the experts in the IT department for things like data security. So that's sort of how next steps will look. But the key here is after hearing the presentations, let's put some questions in the box and we will ask some follow-up questions. And I'm hoping the folks who presented will also join us for cake. So if you want to have an informal conversation with them, you can.
And have we received any comments other than the comment letter and the two we've had today in regards to?
That the only comment letter we received was from MAWA. Yes.
Okay. I am a little concerned that just leaving things open until Thursday may not provide enough time, especially since we're on a holiday week.
Sure.
And I'm just curious to know if we were to extend that out another week, maybe Thursday of next week, how would that affect your timeline on some of these things?
In terms of gathering questions from folks, we could do that.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you,
Director.
Director Macaulay.
I think we got a comment.
It looks like we have Karen who's raised her hand.
Hi there. Yeah, Karen Cedarquist. I'm not sure if now I should give my comment or ask my question, but with the 3 different measurement choices, what's
Karen,
the
can you hear us?
accuracy on the, yes, could you hear me? Hello? I'm not sure. Can anyone hear me?
Oh, so it appears we have an audio issue. Karen, I don't know if it appears you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Okay.
What do you suggest, County Council?
She has an opportunity to speak. Online is not a lawful requirement. However, if there is a way that she can type in her public comment, it is not the same, but we cannot solve the tech issue, unfortunately. If we're able to solve it after the recess, Madam Chair, you can always go back to the item. This is unlike a public hearing.
Right.
If you wanted to offer
Yeah.
that to Karen.
Thank you. We'll give it a. Is she typing? Okay. Why don't we take a 10-minute recess? We'll see if we can connect with her via text or send her a message. And if she wants to submit, this is an opportunity. The period appears will be open for until next week to submit these questions or comments. So let's make every effort to connect with her. Okay, we will take a 10-minute recess. We'll come back at, can't see, at 2:50. Please join us for some cake. Just okay, we're live, we're back. And we're gonna go back to the previous item. I believe that someone's here to read some comments and we'll take those for the record. If you can state your name for the
Hi,
record.
Nolan with Cedar Quest Farms. I have Karen's comment here. She wants to know about the accuracy of the options of the measurement data. We have the county's meter verification project, but is there any other studies that we can review? Because she feels that accuracy is probably the most important part of these platforms evaluating. So thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, you have that noted? Okay, anyone else? All right, we will move on to the next item, which is an action item, consideration and recommendation to the Board of Directors to approve a resolution amending Resolution 2022-086 and repealing and replacing Resolution 2022-198, establishing revised fees for domestic well mitigation program for the Madera Subbasin. Stephanie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Stephanie and Agneson, Director of Water and Natural Resources. I'm ready to share my screen. And I am joined online by Kevin Kostick of Raftellus, rate consultant. So as you know, there has been an injunction on collecting rates for the GSP projects, but the injunction has been lifted and we do have the ability to collect a fee. And we have the ability to actually collect the full fee for multiple years, but what staff is recommending to the board is a much more limited rate for domestic well mitigation only. So what you heard from Kevin from Raftellus last month was about this rate. It was $67 per acre within a farm unit, what we call the enrolled acres, and then $43 afterwards. There were a number of assumptions in that rate. One is that we're really estimating at $35,000 per well. And we did look at some recent costs from environmental health for those who were willing to share, and that is within the ballpark for a well drilled and casing. It's not necessarily everything, and if you need electrical work or a pump, but it would be provide a significant amount of help for those whose wells go dry. It also addressed people on what we're calling interim solutions over a 3-year period. These are people who currently receive trucked or hauled water through state funds to self-help. It does not necessarily use all of the rules in Chowchilla, which include going back retroactively and paying for all wells that have gone dry since GSP adoption. We also assume a 10% program administration fee, as well as the county GSA's share based on historical and future overdraft at 73% of the full subbasin costs. So just so that we're really clear on how rates are developed, we have this fraction at the bottom. So the rate is really the costs, total costs, divided by the acreage, in this case enrolled acreage, which is acres within a farm unit. So our 2022 rate study was based on years of outreach and asking growers what solutions they had to the continued groundwater decline. And there were 4 suggestions: the land repurposing, recharge, purchases of water, and domestic well mitigation. In this slide, you can see the original rate at $246 per enrolled acre. And you can see the 2025, what staff is recommending, which is this $67. So that is a summary of what we heard. We also heard comments from the public, and I'm listing all of these and have slides that sort of investigate each of these. One comment is, why do we need this program? What details are available about it? There's a sense of, why is ag paying for it? Why isn't the residential sector paying? There was some feedback on the 73%. And so I have some more information on that. There was a thought that penalties could potentially fund this program or offset part of the costs, and I'll walk you through the math there. And then a sense that perhaps there were those who had not contributed to groundwater overdraft that were under base sustainable yield of 6 inches. And was there a way to exempt those folks? So we've done some additional analysis. Also some feedback on just the financial piece. What do you do if wells end up costing significantly more than the $35,000 per well? And is there a way to create a ceiling on the revenue collected? So we're now going to walk through each of those. So the first question is really, why are we doing this? So the domestic well mitigation program was part of 2018 and 2019 discussions. And it's really a way to allow for continued drawdown in groundwater levels by providing mitigation. So in order to access the transition water, you are essentially having an exchange where you're providing funds for domestic wells. This is not the only program. As we mentioned, there is one actively right now in the Chowchilla subbasin. The King subbasin is working on one, and all the way down the valley, they are developing similar programs. So currently, state funding through what's called SAFER is meeting this need. We have been told by multiple parties, including the state, that this funding is going away and that the costs need to be borne locally. That is not great financial news, but it is a fact. Also, the program doesn't necessarily add water to the subbasin. It's mitigation for allowing drawdown. So absent other changes, projects, individual efforts, whether it's land repurposing or recharge, or changes in the allocation structure, you do end at 13 inches currently in 2040 in the Madera subbasin. And just to make it super clear, this discussion is about Madera subbasin county GSA rates only, not Chowchilla, though we will mention them because there's a domestic well mitigation program there. There are currently 7 groundwater sustainability agencies in the Madera subbasin. They all have streams of sufficient revenue to meet their portion of costs other than the county GSA. Without a fee, we do not have funds to pay adequate funds for the program. So here are some details on the program itself. We did receive a grant through SB 552. It's funding facilitation among the 7 GSAs and development of draft rules. The draft rules will need to be shared in the public and get public feedback on that in the next 6 months or so. There is some sort of agreement on funding with proportional share, but there is also some parties who would like to only fund what is within their GSA. So there is some sort of hybrid approach, which may be where we land, but the direction from the State Department of Water Resources is that you do need 100% coverage within the Madera subbasin. So here are some basic steps. These have been discussed with the 7 parties, but also these are used in the Chowchilla program and throughout these programs in the Valley. So typically there's an application with some sort of minimal deposit, but enough so that people have some skin in the game. And typically you will get the money back with a successful application. So it might be $50 or $100. There's just a quick review to see if you are qualified, meaning someone is checking that this is actually a home, it actually has a dry well, they're in the right subbasin, all of that. We're talking to the landowner. Then there is some sort of inspection to see why the well went dry. The proposed program is only for funding wells that have gone dry to dropping water levels. So if the pump died, that would not be funded. If there was some sort of maintenance issue, like a clogged screen, that also would not be funded. The program is for the well only, and it can be used only once with it recorded on the deed. So we did a chart here of kind of what we know and what we don't know related to domestic well mitigation program. As you know, we've really had a lot of studies of the groundwater levels in Madera and Chowchilla as well, going back more than a decade, including $3 million for the Madera GSP and the Chowchilla GSP that were really robust efforts in analyzing dropping groundwater levels and potential solutions. There is general agreement from the Madera subbasins to have a program with a draft of rules underway. And we do have cost estimates from a recent review of environmental health wells. We have a management cost at approximately 10%, management or administration, which is typically what we get with state grants as well. This is not a grant, but we are using that percent as a standard. And then we have the facilitation costs to develop the rules paid for. What we don't necessarily have decisions on, but is in process today, is this backlog of those on interim solutions, those getting trucked water, and whether you resolve that in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. We do have 3 years set up within the rate structure right now. Final rules have not been shared out, and we would need to share draft rules and get feedback on that through a public process. There's not a decision on program administrator, though we've evaluated a few options. And then, of course, there's the challenge of the county GSA funding, which is the item that is in front of you today. So that addresses some of the public comments on exactly why you have to do it and what details are available. I'm going to shift now to the, the why is ag paying rather than residential. And essentially this slide will show that we have 93% of the groundwater used by ag in the Madera subbasin, a much smaller percent used by urban, and a smidgen being used by active or managed recharge projects, either in basins or on farm. And this is a snapshot from our annual report. So the county GSA's cost share is estimated at 73%. That is based on contribution to overdraft from the past into the future, including projects. That number can change over time and could be evaluated once a year. It could be evaluated based on the annual report or every 5 years. But that is the best information that we have at this moment. And I think that doesn't necessarily feel fair to people, but I think you have to think that the county is managing the acres that are groundwater dependent. So it does make sense that the majority of that is attributable to the groundwater dependent acres. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit about penalties and fees. I know there's a desire to have the penalties fund fees and cover the entirety of the cost of domestic well mitigation, but the revenue isn't really sufficient. So let me just walk you through a couple of realities of the penalties. So the first, Delta Mendota, we've haven't had any billings for penalties. So you'll see 0 both in the top chart, which is what we've billed, as well as what we've collected. In Chowchilla, these penalties are given to Chowchilla Water District, which is the administrator of the domestic well mitigation program. And this, of course, could happen in Madera. These penalties could all go to that, but I wanted to make sure you knew the amounts. So in Chowchilla, last year there were only, and this is 2023 penalties collected in 2024, $15,000. This year, there are considerably more billed, $274,000, but we have not had those collected yet. If you don't collect your penalty as well, it does end up on your property tax bill. So you can see we billed for $274,000 in penalties, but only received $83,000, so significantly less. So then shifting to the Madera subbasin, the penalties from 2023 received last year were $55,000. That is currently sitting in an account. This year in 2024, we billed $541,000 and we received $427,000. So if you think about the amount that is available right now to credit to the fee, it's the sum of $55,000 and $427,000. You might ask, and we did some investigation on what happens and what the timeliness is once it goes on property taxes. We will receive it as soon as people pay. And if many years go by, 5, and you don't pay, there's essentially a lien on that. So here's an analysis of the rates with and without the penalties. So with the penalties applied, you can see the rate goes from $65 to $59. So it's about a 10% discount, which makes sense because the penalty revenue is about 10% of the total amount that you need in the Madera subbasin for the county share. So we have proposed a new fraction here, which is the rate is really the cost, total program cost minus what is collected in penalties, then divided by the acres within farm units, what's called the enrolled acreage. And these are not the average rates that we showed last time, and that's really so that you can see that difference between without the penalty and then with the penalty. So you're really shifting from $65 to $59. It's not nothing, but it also isn't erasing the entirety of the fee. Another thing that we heard last time was this idea that there were people who hadn't contributed to groundwater overdraft, that they were somehow subject to the fee, and that they were under base yield of 6 inches. So we did some open ET analysis using open ET because it's a free time series that we can get for a 10-year period. So nothing else is free and for a long period. There are a very, very small number, like under 5 farms that might fit that criteria. So if parties were exempted, we could maybe consider them an opt-out. What sorts of things would we need in order for them to be an opt-out, meaning they're not going to pay the fee for domestic well mitigation? Well, we'd have to monitor their water use and make sure that it remains at or under 6 inches. They wouldn't receive the transitional water or the reallocated sustainable yield because they're saying they are under this base number of 6 inches. There would have to be penalties if they went over, and there would have to be something that's recorded on the property. So it couldn't be, I'm going to own something for 5 years, it's an opt-out property, and then I'm going to sell it to someone who then plants everything. And almost finally, addressing this idea of financial ceiling. We do have in the original resolution and the new resolution this requirement that every year you revisit the fee and make sure it is the appropriate amount, meaning you're not over collecting. So this is an annual update that would be a look at revenues and expenditures, and then the rates could be lower than the existing rate if that was advisable. So that is our summary of what we shared last time, what we heard, and some fairly lengthy responses to what we heard. The staff recommendation is to bring to the full board of directors a rate for domestic well mitigation that includes the penalties that are collected to date, not billed, just collected, including a provision that allows people to opt out if they meet the criteria of being under sustainable yield. Happy to take your questions. I'm going to pop back for my water, but I'm here.
Thank you, Stephanie. You have any questions, Director McCauley?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Chair. So when we're looking at our rate schedule for fiscal years 27 moving forward, that does not contemplate that we've applied penalties, right? Because we haven't collected penalties yet.
That's right. That would have to happen in the annual financial update.
Okay.
And penalties, first of all, we don't really want to collect them, right? We want people under the allocation, but they are very hard to predict because, of course, it also depends on the hydrology and how wet it is. That's why there's also a big difference between 2023 and 2024.
Sure. So that's great that you're already planning on looking at an annual review to where we can apply those penalties, because even more than we don't want to collect them, we don't want to hold on to them, right? We want to make sure they're being used appropriately. And so I'm curious in regards to like the collection of penalties. I know you mentioned that those are eventually going to go on a tax bill if they're not paid. So have you talked with admin about the possibility of tapping into like our teeter fund reserves, which are designed to keep, local jurisdictions whole in the event that people aren't paying their property taxes? Is that something that's been talked about or?
Other than the kind of larger budget discussions, no.
Okay. And then I think you had made a comment in regards to, I think the GSA's only paying if they've got domestic wells that have gone dry within their GSA. Is that correct? How would that impact our rate study?
Not very much. So there are kind of two approaches that have been discussed. One for 5 years, which is we contribute based on our proportional share of overdraft, and one that's come to light very recently, like within the last couple of weeks, which is just cover what is geographically within your boundary. Now, there's a sense that that's maybe not entirely fair, because we do affect agencies outside of our boundary. However, to get a program in place, we may have a combination of a proportional overdraft cost and covering within our own GSA, but they are both for the county GSA fairly close numbers. So 73% is what we have that is the best available number right now, and I feel comfortable with that recommendation to your board.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, just for clarification, this opt-out provision, are you recommending then that we have that?
Yes, but we want to hear feedback from the public. I mean, if there are people who are 6 inches and under and for a 10-year period, and they would like to opt out, I think you can offer that as an option. But as I said, analysis showed that there are less than 5. It is a very small number.
Okay. Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll open it up to public comment.
I'm Mark Peters, Madera Subbasin. And the good news is I'm not going to argue with the cost of $35,000 or the 73%, but I do have two important things that I want to bring up today. My fundamental question is, why are we paying 100% of the $35,000? And I did a lot of research on the subject, and of course, these wonderful AI tools that you have nowadays, you can get a lot of data. And the Department of Water Resources is the control board, and they are approving plans that don't pay 100%. An example would be Kings County, where it's not 100% of the cost. They have an aging schedule in Kings County. And so I think we need to look at it differently, but I was deep into it and I just want to read. So I'm deep into AI. It's over the weekend. And I said, what GSA pays the highest amount? And I asked that of search engine. And the answer that came back, or what GSP, if I didn't say that. Among California GSPs, the Chowchilla Subbasin stands out for offering one of the highest per well mitigation payments at $30,000 per dry well. And then it goes on and on. But then it took my question farther. I didn't ask this. Other GSPs in the San Joaquin Valley have domestic well mitigation programs, but public available information indicates their per well funding caps are generally lower or less specifically defined. Estimates of total cost for well failure across multiple GSAs average $11,300 to $12,500 per well, much lower than the Chowchilla cap. That was in writing. And so I bring it up very importantly. I think this goes beyond just the wide area, because this is for the entire Madera Subbasin. But I think what happened is 4 or 5 years ago, it was decided to pay the full fee. And now we're starting to see what approved programs are doing. And DWR is approving programs that are less than the full 100% fee. And I'm asking why the Madera subbasin is not doing the same thing. Because every penny we pay over it, we're leading the pack and penalizing the growers on what the fee is. And so I think there's got to be a reevaluation of whether we pay 100%. Okay, that's number one. Number two, let me just get to where I am here. It's now talking about what the annual grower fee is. And you know that grower fee is a combination of what the cost is times 73% minus the penalty reimbursed, if you will. I completely disagree with that penalty number. If you think about it, if 1% of the water is in penalty, just 1%, it would be $11 per an acre, not $6. The math is just straightforward. If it was 2% and 3%, and you hear growers complaining, the number would be significantly bigger, the offset. And by not having that significantly bigger offset, you're causing Madera growers to be charged for a higher amount than's going to happen. And then time will go on and prove that, in fact, the penalties are bigger than what Stephanie suggested, and we're not going to get our money back. And so I ask for a reconsideration of this calculation. I would gladly share my numbers, but I think it would be a terrible mistake to approve a 5-year program penalizing growers at the rates that were suggested when the penalties, and oh, by the way, penalties for the first 2 years were 100 and 200. This year, they're 300. Next year, 400, then 500. So really, for the life of it, it's $500 are the penalties. And they're going to be a significant number, and that significant number should be as an offset beginning now so that we are not bringing more money in from penalties and having the growers to pay this terrible rate. At least consider shortening it to 1 year. 1 year so that everybody can get more data, but we're making just a very grave mistake when we do 5 years at 67 going down to 43. It's not going to be that much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Rodriguez. I'm with UCA and R Sigma. I just had a couple questions about the specifics of domestic well mitigation. I'm not sure if it's at the level yet where these specifics are coming into play, but I just wanted to make sure that they were potentially addressed if they were past the point where they would need to be addressed. When you read North Kings GSA or GSA, GSPs in the King Subbasin, I clarified if dual use wells were covered or not. So if there's a small producer that's living on a 5-acre block, that's their drinking water well, but they're also running a small ag operation on it, are they also included in this domestic well mitigation since this is their only source of drinking water? And I was told yes, but when you actually read the Kings Basin or subbasin plans, it actually specifically excludes domestic wells that are dual use. So if this is something that's been considered by the County of Madera GSA, I would just like to know if there's a minimum threshold or if it's just a kind of base by base or case by case basis as things develop. And then again, I just wanted to clarify that there's no solutions interim. So if there's, a domestic well that goes dry, somebody's waiting for however long it takes for whatever the, contracted well driller has to be able to go out, whatever the determination time period is. If they're not receiving any support, if they're not receiving a rebate payment, some kind of solution like that, just so that way I'm aware and can add it to my own notes and discussion with my larger team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Roberts, rancher and farmer here in Madera. I was coming up to talk about the potential for the opt-out. I appreciate that, as we may be one of the few that could qualify for this. We have never used more than our base sustainable yield across all our lands for 80 plus years. But I don't want, and this might be a question that's in a one-on-one setting, but would the 6 inches be applied to all our lands, including our adjacent parcels that aren't currently in our farm unit? Or would that only be for the farm units as they're defined now?
Thank you.
Devin Avilas, speaking on behalf of Madera Ag Water Support, Water Association. MAWA supports the development of the domestic well mitigation program, the Madera Subbasin, and recognizes the need to move forward with a plan for funding. In doing so, MAWA recommends that the resolution be amended to clarify that all revenue collected by penalties for overpumping be automatically allocated the domestic well mitigation program fund and used to offset the rate, which is what I think Stephanie has alluded to. It is appropriate that the penalty revenue be used to address the effects of that overpumping. MAWA also encourages the GSA to retain language requiring an annual financial review of the fee. The annual financial review will allow the GSA board the opportunity to adjust the rate amount based on several factors, including the offset from penalty revenue, a reasonable reserve amount, and any adjustments to the actual number of dry well applications and anticipated application. Finally, MAWA is not in a position to support allowing growers to opt out of the domestic well mitigation program fee until there is more information provided identifying how many enrolled acres may be eligible for the opt-out. I think Stephanie has also addressed that in one of her slides. In conducting the analysis, the GSA should also clarify that the sustainable yield is set to 6 inches per acre. But in the calculations, we thought it was the total sustainable yield divided by the total acres of correlative right holders that put groundwater to reasonable and beneficial use in that year. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin.
Good afternoon. I am here today and thanks for sharing the information on how the domestic well mitigation program will unfold. What I am concerned about is the draft quote unquote rules regarding what qualifies as a well that a domestic well that should be mitigated. If I could please receive a copy of those draft rules, I would really appreciate it. Without some type of governance or definition as to what qualifies for a well that has been impacted by events of late in our county and what Sigma is requesting, I think it would be difficult to determine how many wells that are said to be dried up by farmers are truly those that have been impacted by agricultural farmers. I know from personal experience, my family has its own personal responsibility and has replaced their domestic wells over time. But believe me, a domestic well depth that was drilled in 1940, 1950 is radically different than what is considered the depth of a domestic well in even the last 10 or 20 years. So just like how you have to maintain your car, just like how you have to maintain the floor of your house or buy new curtains every once in a while, maintenance of those types of assets are incumbent upon the property owner. So I just leave you with that concept in your mind, and I would like to, personally, I would like to get a copy of the draft rules, and I would like to share that with some of the agricultural organizations that I belong to. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brad Samuelson. I'm here representing the East and Deep Pursuit families. They very much support the coming up with a fee program for domestic well mitigation. We understand the responsibility, appreciate the effort that has gone on since, well, for the last 6 to 8 months to come up with this recommended program or fee. We do take into account some of the previous comments where the age of the wells that are being replaced, maybe that they have been dewatered, but maybe they are 60, 70 years old. It doesn't maybe seem fair that the current ag pay for those replacements when they're likely just old wells that need to be replaced anyway. So the development of the rules is going to be very important, and we'll be actively watching that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Do we have any comments online?
No comments online.
No hands raised. Stephanie, do you want to have any concluding comments?
Sure. Just some clarification on what qualifies as a domestic well. That's really what you're choosing when you apply for a well permit with environmental health. So that's the criteria. Typically, those wells are more shallow and narrower. But as long as the well were a domestic well, in the draft rules, it would qualify. And we can work on getting those finalized as quickly as possible. But frankly, one of the things keeping the group from finalizing the rules is the county GSA not having a funding source for it. So it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. I think people think we might not have a funding source, and so why should they invest energy to finalize the rules? Sorry, that sounded harsher than it meant, but you get the gist. Happy to answer any questions from the board.
I think in regards to the rate, again, I think the intention of staff is to recalculate that rate each year based on the prior year's penalties, correct?
Yes, that's right. Using the penalties actually collected number.
And does the state have any guidance for us in regards to the percentage of costs that GSAs are responsible to cover? And if we weren't going to cover it, would the burden be left on the property owner?
That is correct if we didn't cover it. The state has not provided guidance on this program, which is very frustrating. I do want to say that I have played around a fair amount with AI and found some confusing things that come out. So for example, if I lived in the Madera subbasin right now and my well went dry, self-help would be using safer funds, which are going away to fund that. But those wells are coming out quite a bit higher than 35. The price we looked at was people who had paid privately to have their well drilled. So 35 is the well, it's the casing. It's not a pump though. It's not any other work that you need to have done. So they are going to have to handle some of those costs. Additionally, in Chowchilla, we've looked at people's receipts for what they paid in a time when they did not know there was going to be a program, and they are coming out. The older ones are closer to 30, and then they're going up closer to 35 to 40. Happy to answer any other questions.
Stephanie, based on the rules, is there any similarity between what's going to be proposed for the Madera that the Chowchilla has, or is there some consistency there, or what does that look like?
There is consistency between the Chowchilla program. I think we've heard Mr. Peters' comment to not reinvent the wheel. I mean, we have a pretty solid program. The basic difference between Chowchilla and Madera is scale, meaning 20 to 30 wells a year is different than a couple hundred. And so that's going to need a little bit more thought, but they are basically consistent in that they're paying for the well itself and not anything else, and that there's a thorough check beforehand to make sure you're not paying for something that isn't the intent of the program.
Okay, thank you.
Last question I have, in going back again to our rates annually and recalculating, would the intention be that when we recalculate those rates, we present to the public similar to how we're doing today, so everybody has an opportunity to comment in regards to those rates?
Yes, that's exactly the intent. So it happens through a public process, starting at the committee, and then it would need to be adopted by your full board of directors.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion,
I would move for approval.
and I will second that. And this is where I call for a roll call.
Director McCauley?
Yes.
Director Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 2-0.
Thank you. Item 6 is an action item, consideration and recommendation to the Board of Directors to approve a resolution repealing resolution number 2025-004 and reinstating resolution 2022-072, which outlines procedures for the review of new or altered groundwater wells and verification of consistency with adopted groundwater sustainability plans.
Here we go. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Director McCauley. Jeannie Hoban, Deputy Director of Water and Natural Resources. Today I'm requesting a reinstatement of the previous resolution, as you just saw. To explain what's gone on, in March of 2022, the Governor of California executed an executive order for drought. And what he asked was that all GSAs they verify and provide in writing for any new or altered well that's being requested. And it's just a verification so that they are consistent with the GSP. In May of 2022, the Board of Directors, your board, approved and signed a resolution in creating that procedure. Then in September of 2024, the governor had executed another executive order that terminated the drought designation. So in January 2025, we then brought it to the board, and your board of directors then repealed and rescinded that resolution. Then, a few months later, we received clarification that the governor's termination of drought was done in only 19 counties, and Madera was not one of them. In fact, all of the San Joaquin Valley was not included in that. And so we needed the Madera County GSA resolution is required to be reinstated so that we can continue to review those requests for wells. And so what we're asking is the consideration and recommendation of the board to repeal and then rescind the resolution that was done in January and go back and reinstate the one that was done prior to that. Any questions?
None from me. Any public comment? Do you have anyone online?
None online.
Move to approve.
And I'll second that. Roll call vote.
Director McCauley?
Yes.
Director Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 2-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Now moving on to the director's reports. I have nothing to report. Oh, right. You did.
Just a few notes. As I mentioned earlier, Chowchilla Subbasin moved back from the State Water Resources Control Board to DWR. So a big win there about a month ago. We do have our summary of rules booklets that will be mailed out shortly. We're putting the groundwater meter refinement information in from a couple of board actions. So they're a little bit delayed, but we wanted to make sure they had recent information in them. And I think that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn, but please help yourselves to some cake because there's plenty of it. Thank you all.